Hello everyone, reporting live from TIFF and one of our highest anticipated films coming into this film festival, a film that made such a big wave at Cannes. I'm talking about...
Sentimental Value?
Sentimental Value. Well, we finally saw it and I liked it.
But
I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts. So let's talk about Sentimental Value. And this is, of course, from the director of, you remember the last one?
Worst Person in the World.
Yes, Joachim Trier, Norwegian filmmaker. He reteams once again with the star of that film, Renate Reinsve. And why don't you tell them a little bit about what Sentimental Value is about?
Yeah, Sentimental Value tells the story about this once great filmmaker, famous filmmaker, played by the incredible Stellan Skarsgård. And he attempts to revive his career while he's in the process. He's also trying to repair his broken relationships with his daughters, Nora, played by Renate, and Agnes.
But yeah, it's really that kind of in the process part that this film is all about. How do two damaged individuals learn to communicate and really see each other? This film really kind of explores and touches on some of those themes that I would say often resonate with me in particular. It surrounds art being used as the only means to express yourself and how the pursuit of art can help kind of process traumatic events as well as help kind of sort through complicated feelings. And there's kind of a certain meta-ness to this film, with Joachim Trier is clearly making a film that's very personal to him, and in the process of making Sentimental Value, it feels like Trier is kind of unpacking some of his own inner turmoil, with Stellan Skarsgård kind of standing in for him, also a director who struggles to communicate outside of creating, but hoping that in the act of making a film that it could give him some, I guess, emotional closure. There's kind of like this mirror effect in this film in a certain way.
Yeah, he did confirm this during the Q&A, that he modeled that character after himself, which I thought was really interesting for him.
Watching this movie reminded me of that Oscar Wilde quote that says that life imitates art far more than art imitates life. So that interplay between reality and fiction and how through the creative process and through the stories we tell, like the Sarah Polley documentary, has the power to kind of shape or reshape our realities.
Which is also a way that you could interpret the film's title, Sentimental Value. Like, how do you put a price tag on art? How do you put a price tag on, like, his film or, their home?
Right, or the belongings inside the home.
Yeah.
When the value is tied up in one's own personal connection to it. Joachim Trier's approach is much less flashy than it was in The Worst Person in the World, and it's much more refined and reserved, I guess you can say. Trier's screenplay is filled with so much background and detail of these characters that you really feel like you understand these people on a real intimate level. And both Stellan Skarsgård and Renate Reinsve turns in, I think, really strong performances that are layered, emotional, while also maintaining kind of a grounded, understated nuance. And Skarsgård also balancing, like you mentioned before, he has to be somewhat of a prick, but we also kind of have to empathize with him and understand where he's coming from, and he does that really nicely.
Renate, of course, is always such a great actor. She's so honest, and I feel like there's never a false note in her performances.
Yeah, even as she navigates through kind of emotional beats and comedic beats, she always comes from a place of honesty. And Dakota Johnson's in this film. I'm sorry. Dakota Fanning, sorry. So tired. But Dakota Fanning's also in this film. She plays an American actress, and she plays one that Stellan turns to when Renate Reinsve's character turns down his offer to lead his film. And she has a very tricky role here that requires her to be a talented actress, but also one that's a little bit over her head. But then there's also times where Trier allows her character to have some emotional moments as well. And even Inga, who plays Renate Reinsve's sister, is wonderful as well. More dimensional than a supporting character typically is, but perhaps I would say like the least memorable character of the three.
I think she has perhaps one of the most raw moments in the film, actually. She has this fight with her father at the kitchen sink, and, she kind of breaks down and she tells him off.
I don't know if her character is as fleshed out as even Dakota Fanning's character. I think that character was even more fleshed out.
Perhaps, yeah.
Ultimately, Joachim Trier is clearly not just an incredible writer, but his direction and these occasional artistic flourishes he does have, these kind of vignettes he does, holds a lot of meaning. One includes this ongoing metaphor of a childhood home with a crack within the walls symbolizing the fractured bonds within a family.
Yeah, and also potentially the damage that each character has endured within themselves. Since they all seem to be quite damaged individuals, I think the house with the crack also represents, you know, themselves as individuals.
Yeah, I mean, it all has the makings of a film that would emotionally floor you, but leading into really the only thing that prevents me from fully embracing this film in one big giant hug is the fact that for whatever reason, I just never got there emotionally. I always was there intellectually. I was always there thinking about the film, but emotionally I never got there. And I'm trying to find the source or the disconnect of why this film didn't move me on such a deep emotional level, at least the same way it has other people. And it's been weird because there are some other films with similar themes that have really hit me emotionally hard. And it's just been really difficult and really frustrating for me to really kind of try to pinpoint why something so perfect on its surface could leave me just wanting a little bit more from it.
Yeah, I think the film is very poetic. It's very classy. And I think you said something that kind of resonated with me. You said there's people who read poetry and cry.
Right.
And I think this film is sort of like a poem. And if you're the kind of person that reads poetry and can get emotional over reading poetry, this is something that might work for you.
I think it also just comes down to your personal style, like how you prefer your dosage of pathos. Sentimental Value has just been meticulously crafted by Trier to the point that it almost felt too curated and just so, like almost like dough that's been over kneaded. Like it just, I don't know, it just feels like too perfect. But Trier even sounds kind of self-aware of that, with Skarsgård's character in the film calling the screenplay within the film overworked.
Yeah, I believe the exact words that she said to her sister was, ignore the fact that it's overwritten.
And in my head at that moment, I was like, so you know it's overwritten, because I felt that watching it, but him being kind of aware of it kind of made me dug it.
Like he knows he's so smart and he knows he's so poetic and classy,
right.
You know? He knows it and he leans into it, I feel like. I also felt this. I feel like the film is perfect, but perhaps maybe a little too perfect. You kind of want to like mess its hair up a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. At least that's maybe from our taste, you know. I kept waiting for this crack in the film, this ongoing crack to kind of explode open and materialize in this kind of outpour and visceral raw emotion. And I think Trier is just a perfectionist and thinking about kind of every expression, every look. To me, that just kind of leaves no room for like this raw, ugly bursting kind of at the seams.
I agree. And fortunately, maybe it's also for me like a cultural thing. As a Latina, like we're very passionate people. We show big emotions with no reservations. You know, and maybe Trier just comes from a very buttoned up background where people of this culture background or socioeconomic status just don't show vulnerability in that way and are very internal and reserved. Unfortunately, that did also take a toll on my emotional response to the film.
I know, like, not every goal of a film is to make you cry in any way. Like, that's not the measure of, like, whether a film is good, of, like, whether it made you cry.
But you want to be connected to it emotionally.
But, yeah, just hearing people say, like, that this is a film that they found so moving, so overtouching. I feel like I just only want to mention it just that way. I, like, prepare people out there that, like, this film didn't move me emotionally that way. Even after the movie, you said, you know, this is, when you think about it, this is a love letter. And I said, yeah, to how, like, you can create art and process trauma. And you said, no, to Nepo babies. And I thought, I know you were joking.
I was joking.
I know you were joking, but I couldn't stop thinking about that.
Yeah, other than that, I think that also the ending is supposed to sneak up on you. But unfortunately, I saw it coming way too early. And I think that also kind of ruined the emotional impact for me. But that's my own fault for being like a chismosa and reading into things like way too much, way too closely, you know, that I kind of ruined that ending for myself.
Yeah, it's kind of that film. If you've ever seen that film, Tony Erdmann, tonally, they're very similar.
Yeah.
So just if you're wondering how the emotion is played in this film, think of Tony Erdmann. That's what you're kind of expecting. If you love that film, I think that you will love Sentimental Value. I really like Sentimental Value, okay? I want to get it clear. I really do like Sentimental Value. Overall, I came out really positive on this film because the craft is undeniable. But I do just admit that I did feel a little underwhelmed emotionally by it. Today, I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I'm at an 8 out of 10. There's no denying that this is an incredibly well-crafted, beautiful film.
Let's talk about Oscars. Sentimental Value, obviously, it's going to be a pretty big Oscar contender. That buzzing feeling that I got with Anora as that type of film that could win Best Picture, I didn't quite get that with this film. I felt like this could easily be more of Anatomy of a Fall this year, or like Marriage Story. A film that will have a large amount of admirers, and for those who do love it, the passion will be strong. So I'm thinking picture, supporting actor, actress, international screenplay, director, those feel very safe. But it's also likely to see a nomination for supporting for Elle Fanning or Inga, one of them. If you have to choose one of them again, what do you think's more likely? Kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, I mean, I think Elle Fanning was actually kind of stole a little bit of the spotlight.
Yeah, I think her role is challenging, though, because some people might interpret her, like, not great acting as not great acting, but it was purposeful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Inga probably has the edge slightly. And though not as likely, I think we could see a nomination, maybe in editing or score. So we're looking at around 8 nominations potentially. And in terms of win, I think this is definitely our most likely international winner. And the other big possibility for a win, I would say Stellan Skarsgård. I think he's in the cards for the win. I don't know if he'll make it in the end, but I think he's a possible winner here.
You know what I was thinking? How do you think SAG's going to react to this?
I know. I thought about that. I don't think this is a SAG film. Yeah. I think it's going to play almost like The Brutalist played.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm so curious.
But those are our thoughts. Let us know what you think. Do you think Skarsgård would win Best Actor? What nominations are you predicting for Sentimental Value? Let us know in the comment section below. We got more reviews coming your way.
We got Hamnet,
Frankenstein,
Testament Van Lee,
Smashing Machine. We got a bunch. So hit the subscribe button down below. And until next time, everyone, I'll see you at the Oscars.
And a TIFF.